Hey guys, what's going on? I wanted to make a video to show you a couple of things if you're starting out new on Yahoo Fantasy Football this year, or it's been a couple of years like myself since you've last played. First things first that you're going to want to do is obviously get into a league, and just in case if you don't have a league, I have a second league that I'm a commissioner of. I only have one person, which is myself. I'll put the link in the description if you want to join it. And it's just for fun, no money, nothing too serious, no trash talking or anything like that. So first thing you get into a league, the first thing you want to be familiar with is the roster setup for your league. Each league might be different, but I think most people just use the default setting. Now, you're going to be drafting one quarterback, two receivers, two running backs, one tight end, a utility player, I guess is what they call that basically, a kicker, a defense for a team, 6 bench players, and I think you have one spot of. You don't draft this spot, I believe, but you can put one person in the injured reserve if they're listed as injured reserve. You can't just put a random player in there. They have to be listed by Yahoo as an injured player. I think you can draft an injured player. Let's say Aaron Rodgers. You can draft him injured and just put him straight in there, I believe. So these are just what you're going to be looking for when you're drafting. And this is going to be like a pre-draft video, not exactly showing any draft yet. I'll do a second video for mock drafts. And if you're ahead of the game, you want to do, like, if you're already familiar with this, you might want to start doing some mock drafts. Those are really important so you get familiar with the players, but you'll see this video is going to also help you out with that. So first things you want to go to is you tab over to players and go to the players list. This is what Yahoo lists their players as, the number one projected player, I believe, for this year coming up, but the stats are from last year. So it looks like this year Le'Veon Bell is projected to be the number one pick. But if you also want to go to 2016 stats, you go here, you scroll down to 2016, then you hit filter, and it puts in all the stats for 2016. Now, in 2016, Ezekiel Elliott was a running back. He did pretty well. Had, you can go. I'll go through each stat. First one that's kind of important, just so the numbers are all kind of relative, is it'll show you, the players' games that they played in. Like if you go to the next tab, fantasy points. Aaron Rodgers had 385, but he no, actually no, not him. I'll go to Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck had 320, but he missed one game. So if you're just looking down here, you're like, well, I'm not going to draft Andrew Luck or Ezekiel Elliott or these guys, but the lower the number goes, the less games that they played in. So a good example would also be like Le'Veon Bell. He only had 242 points, but he did miss 4 games. So that shows that he is probably a pretty good player, and don't doubt him out, I guess, in a way, because he didn't have that many points, but he missed a couple games. So everything is pretty relative. Like I said, when you get down here, like Cousins, no, not Cousins, Andrew Luck, Ezekiel Elliott, and some of these guys, the numbers start going down, but they did miss some games. And Jameis Winston was a rookie, and the team around him and stuff like that. So you got to kind of figure some of that stuff out on your own. And this is not really the most important. This just shows you who had what percentage of owners had him on the roster on their team. And I think in 2016 the projected was Le'Veon Bell. Actually, no. Yeah, I think that's last year. So anyways, I'm not going to go through 2016. I'll go back to 2017 and filter it. And it'll keep the projected there. So yards. Okay, so first category, you can basically go quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. So passing yards, if you want to see who passed for the most yards, last year was Tom Brady. and he had 32 touchdowns, which is like super duper amazing. But then you also have to look at interceptions. Like Ben Roethlisberger had a lot, but he did also have 14, like 6 more than Tom Brady. So you just kind of look at their receiving, their passing yards, their touchdowns. So you got to kind of keep an eye on what you think is most important for you. If you have a lot of running backs that are scoring a lot of touchdowns on your team, let's say you have like 2 of the best running backs on your team or 3 best running backs on your team, but you need yards, you might want to pick a quarterback that has a lot of yards, but maybe not a lot of touchdowns. Let's say Drew Brees had only 23 touchdowns, but he has a lot of passing yards. You might want to pick him up, and the yards are going to help your team out. Next category is the running backs. How many attempts they get, how many times they get handed the ball. That's actually really important to a lot of people. Actually, no. Why is that? Okay, no, that's passing attempts. So you look at how many times they pass the ball. Kirk Cousins, their offense, and Alex Smith is basically ran all by the passing yards. They really probably don't have a good running back, so he'll be throwing a lot. So, like Tom Brady, just to show like why he is who he is, like 25 attempts and all those yards, whereas Russell Wilson had 95 attempts. If I'm reading that right, but don't quote me. And he only had. Actually, no, that's rushing. I think that's rushing. Yeah, never mind. If I'm not mistaken. Okay, so I read that wrong. So forget everything I just said about the rushing. Okay, this is for the running backs. I thought so, the way it lined up. But that's pretty good too. So if you go back to the yards here, you can see that that's actually a good point. So it's kind of a mistake I made, but it actually is going to help you out. Russell Wilson had only 39 passing yards, but he did rush for 95 and picked up another almost 600 yards. So he had like 45 or 40, like 45 or 4,600 yards total. And then he picked up a couple extra touchdowns. So that's another thing too you got to keep an eye on. So I kind of goofed, but it did bring up a good point, is that passing yards are important. Touchdowns are important passing, but you got to keep an eye on touchdown for rushing. Russell Wilson ran for a lot. Blake Bortles picked up another 300. So if they're not passing, they might be a little bit more well-balanced quarterback that they can both rush and pass. So it brings up me to the next thing, which is rushing attempts. So if you're looking, same thing, a running back that's going to get the ball a lot. Let's say you have really good quarterbacks, and you're looking for a really good running back that's going to get a lot of yards or a lot of attempts. Then you definitely want to highlight that category. Look at who's going to get a lot of attempts. Todd Gurley has a lot of yards, but not a lot of attempts. So that means he's averaging a lot of yards per carry. And it could be a lot of things. This is just to show you some stuff, but you're going to have to look at also the offensive line and stuff like that. And then before I forget, and I don't want to miss it, these yellow sticky notes give you like the latest news on them. And on the 24th, the Rams signed Todd Gurley to a 4-year extension. So this is stuff too you're going to really want to look at, go through them. Let's say you're interested in like Leonard Fournette, but you're like, hey, wait, something's going on here, so let's read it. And you just got to read some of the stuff that's, make sure, don't forget to like, the whole idea of this video is just make sure you're looking at every little stat and detail ahead of time. Don't wait till the day of your mock draft or draft and then just go in there blind. It's like studying for a test, basically. The more you study, the more prepared you're going to be for the test. Now, rushing touchdowns, Todd Gurley had 13. Like I said, he might not have had a lot of rushing yards, but he had a lot of touchdowns. Or actually, Mark Ingram is going to be the better example. He didn't have a lot, but he did pick up 12 touchdowns. So you got to kind of balance out your team. A lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns and stuff like that. Touchdowns, I believe, are going to be the most important thing, but still yards are going to help out your team. And receiving, same thing. How many times they got targeted. Let's see who got the most. DeAndre Hopkins had the most targets. He had 96 catches. That's not really a great percentage. I think percentages also kind of hurt your team, but you got to look at yards and stuff like that also. Antonio Brown, look at his stats. Julio Jones, not a great percentage, but did also, he got a lot of targets. Let's see who had the most targets again. Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins. But he did have the most touchdowns. So drops, I think, aren't shown on here, but I think drops are kind of you'll hurt him. He'll take negative points for drops. So that's the thing too. Let's say those 96 out of 174, he had a couple drops and stuff like that. I think like if he touched the ball and he dropped it, I think those go against him. So you got to try and do some research and see how many of those are drops. But like I said, these are just kind of some ideas. I did highlight some ahead of time. So like I said, just go through the stats, fiddle with these. This is going to help you a lot, showing you how to get familiar. Des Bryant retired and stuff like that. You can also do it by team. Let's say you are a Eagles fan. You just kind of look at some of these the players who you might want to pick and stuff like that. I know, like I said, people put a lot of heart into this. I don't. I like the Cowboys. I'll pick them first. But if somebody from like the Eagles or Giants were available that was really good, I would take them. I'm not like against rivals and stuff like that. I don't think people should be. You're almost taking it too serious, unless you're doing it for money or something. I don't know. But anyways, when you highlight them, you pick these players. You just go here and pick all of them. It'll throw them back to your team and put them on your watch list. So everybody that I just highlighted, and I highlighted some before, and these are all kind of random, like Baker Mayfield. And that's the other thing too. When you go back to the players list, you're gonna want to have to maybe go on Wikipedia and Google 2018 NFL draft. Look at some of the rookies, because when you're looking at stats from last year, they're not going to show up. I think there might be a way to look at projections, but you can't. But I would recommend going to Wikipedia and checking out rookies, because like that running back for the Giants, Saquon Barkley isn't on here. He doesn't have any stats from last year. So this happened to me when I did it with basketball. LeBron, his rookie year, because he was a rookie, he didn't come up on the stats. People overlooked him, and I ended up drafting him, and he had a pretty good rookie year. But anyways, if you go to New York Giants, filter it, and Beckham too. You don't forget about Beckham. He only played 4 games last year, his knees, but that's the thing about injuries. People are picking him high in a couple mock drafts that I did, but you got to check out his knees and legs and stuff like that, or his hamstring, I think it was. I can't remember. But anyways, Saquon Barkley should be here. Maybe I could do it by running back. He had no stats, but he is projected number 11. So don't forget about him. Or you can kind of do all players, and same thing. Projection might be probably the best for some people too that are beginners, so you don't miss anything. But if you're really intermediate or expert, you're gonna have to start fiddling with some of these stats. If you go just projected and stuff like that, you're not thinking about how many games they played last year that might affect their yards and all that stuff. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, it throws it into your watch list, and the watch list you can kind of keep an eye on. And the reason is, like I said, these will change. There's nothing going on with him, nothing new. Yellow or some injured stuff might pop up, so you can go to your watch list. Let's say you wake up tomorrow, or you're at work and you get home from work and you might have missed something, or busy at work, then you can come back to your watch list and look at what might have changed, if anybody got injured, anybody got cut, anybody starting. But that's pretty much it. Or I mean, none of this will be very useful right now before draft because nobody put anything on trading blocks. I mean, some people might have drafted already, but if you didn't draft, this would be good, you know, before you draft. And then I'll do different videos as the season goes on. I'll do a mock draft next, so you can get familiar. And that's this tab. You can practice with like 14 teams. You just whatever position you want to go in. Let's say you want to practice being the #1 pick. You can go into this team that has 14. Let's say your league only has 8 guys, and you can go into this one. You want to practice going into the 7th spot, you can go here. This one's wide open, and it also depends on the type of league, also head to head and stuff like that. So this will be pretty helpful. Most people aren't gonna get the #1 pick, so they're not gonna go in as #1. You want to practice, and #1's not the greatest because it's snake. So if you get the #1 pick in the first round, you'll get the last pick in the second round, and vice versa. You get the last pick in the first round, you get the first pick in the second round. Most people want to go in the middle or a little bit towards the beginning. There's a lot of good players in the league, really good players. So it's okay if you go like in the middle, or you should just practice. But I'll leave it at that. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll try and answer it. The next video will be about actually doing a mock draft. Alright, I'll see you guys later.